right. Hey, everybody. Happy 2026. First new episode for the year. We got episode number 25. I'm Shane Chalupa here with co host Sam Lee.
Yeah, I mean, we got really deep on this one. It was really unfiltered, unplanned, unscripted, as it always is. But man, I think if I wanted to capture it in four categories, we talked a lot about unlearning and relearning, how important that skill is um, to either advance in your current careers, whether it's corporate or not. But it's really important if you're trying to transition from corporate world into self-employment. Really breaking down what it means to be ambitious or successful or happy. That goes a real long way when you do become your own boss. Then we talk about how important it is to set good habits. And we go into sharing some details around what those habits look like for you, for myself, just to make it kind of real, right? What are the habits that really ground us and help us become the best versions of ourselves? So we talk a little bit about that. We talk about our journeys transitioning from corporate to self-employment. So if there's anyone out there even thinking about making a transition like that, I think this episode will be really helpful just to hear from two people that have gone through those experiences and those challenges. And then last but not least, we dig into some business updates and becomes kind of full circle as we talk about um, all the great wins that Shane has seen. But also then we talk about some of the challenges and the threats that any business owner can see and honestly should see, and how to overcome those threats, those challenges, and those really dark days. It really comes back to unlearning, relearning, sticking to your habits, showing up, and not trying to fix all your problems in one day, but really tackling that one day at a time. So we packed a lot of stuff in this. I think it packs a punch. But I think maybe just given that it is the beginning of the full year, it deserves a conversation like this. And so we hope that you guys find something that's of value, and you guys will hear it also in this episode, but we do plan on releasing some more educational and technical series. So be on the lookout for that. But otherwise, thank you all so much for an amazing 2025. Heading into 2026, we're re-energized. We definitely want to provide more and more value to you all. So all the support is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, enjoy.
Thanks. Hi, Shane.
Hey, Sam. How's it going? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's going really good. How are you doing, man?
Oh my gosh. So good. It's good to be back. After the way the holidays fell this year, it was like everything was kind of shut down for 2 weeks. And so we had a little bit of quiet time and kind of, at least from the business perspective, to kind of go in deep dive and recap 2025 and also get prepped for the exciting start to the new year. And I gotta say, now I'm definitely excited to be back in the flow of things. It's a little over the holidays, it can be a little choppy, and being with family and friends is awesome, but then also you lose a little bit of that momentum. But I was fortunate enough to be able to carry that through, and now kind of back into the full momentum, and it feels great. Everybody's got lots of energy now starting the new year. Everybody's coming back with their initiatives, so it's been exciting. And yeah, how about you? What have you seen, and how was your break?
Break was amazing. Got a lot of family time and a lot of downtime, which was nice. But similar to what you and probably a lot of people experienced, especially if you have your own business, a digital business, especially, it was kind of weird, like thinking or deciding if I should work a little today or if I should work at night a little, like where to squeeze things in. And honestly, like, did I even need to log in and do some things? So it was this constant battle. But once I figured out, like, it's okay to work, when other people are not, like, but let's make sure that we're prioritizing the right things. Then
Hmm.
the couple of days off and really just kind of the time between the two holidays became um, really nice, where I had isolated just a couple of hours every morning just to do a few things, just to not only make myself feel better, but really get to focus on a few things that had been neglected for a few months. But then gives me the rest of the time to either spend time with my wife, Spent a lot of time babysitting my niece during the
Nice.
break, which was so much fun. She's 3.5, and
Ah,
I feel like it's just such a fun age where they're starting to develop like their personality, at least their early kind of stage personality, and
mhm.
they're talking a lot, and yeah, it's been such a joy, and I felt really recharged coming back from the holidays for sure.
Nice. Oh man, I love hearing that. And yeah, for those of you out there know that um, your niece is in the same age group as our two kids, our two daughters, for Mary and I, and yeah, we'll attest to that. That like that 2.5 to 3, they start coming in, and they're more expressive, and obviously have expanded vocabularies, and then you really start see it coming out at like 3, 3.5 into 4, and it yeah, it is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Still a lot of things that happen, and different. They get hungry and tired and can't express all the different emotions that they have yet. So they have their primitive ways of doing that, but it is certainly really enjoyable and really fun. And I'm sure that your niece appreciates that time with you, and what a great bonding experience. It's fills the heart.
absolutely. And I don't think there's anything like no deeper meaning to this, but I love when they ask the question why. Like, I know a lot of people have like qualms, and they complain about like they ask why to literally everything, and honestly, might not be. I mean, me not being a parent, I don't know how much weight there is to my opinions about this. But I love when they ask it because it really makes me think about like why it is I asked them to do something, or why it is that something is this color, or why it moves that way. Like, I thought it was really fun to try and answer some of those questions and really fail at answering a lot of them. But I thought it was kind of fun, and definitely put me like humbled me to a certain degree, where like there's we're running our own businesses, we know everything, right? Like, we're so confident in everything that we do, but it takes is one 3.5-year-old to ask you a couple of questions of why to really put you in your place. So I really got a kick out of that while spending time with her.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. And yeah, it's funny you say that. I know a lot of people have talked about it, and primarily probably like mainstream media and movies and things highlight that of like the whys and everything. And sometimes I've noticed that with other kids a little bit before we had our own, but honestly with our own, I don't really even notice it anymore. And I just, yeah, it's like all educational, and they have such a different perspective on things. And it really, sometimes they give you perspectives and help you grow in ways that you would have never been able to grow through reading books or all the different things that we talk about here a lot on the podcast. But there is something to be said about being a kid again and being like a kid again with other, kids, nieces, nephews, your own, whatever that is. And it really does kind of stretch the brain and brings back a lot of those memories. And actually, a really great segue heading into 2026 and goal setting. One of the things that's top of mind for me, just that I would say initiated when we started formulating the idea for Obnova. And, one thing that I like to highlight to other people is along the way, a lot of us who have been into our careers a few years out of school or longer, you tend to stop like dreaming and looking and really trying to push yourself into bigger things. And you kind of get into, and I don't know if you notice this, but at least for me, it was true. It's like you go to college, you're in a track, and I knew going in for engineering. And so it was like I was in a track, got out, the track was get a job and then work the job, work up the ladder and all of that. And so it's very confined and limiting in a sense. And for a while it was good because there was expansion and growth and all that. But I definitely hit this threshold of like feeling like there was more, and I had no idea what that meant. And along the way, when I look back at it, I was like, man, I think a lot of us stop dreaming and running that exercise of like, what would it be like if I could do anything? What would it be like if I won the $1.8 billion Powerball lottery, and what would that dream life look like for me? And I think a lot of people just say, these are the cards that I'm dealt and I can't change it. I can't influence it. And man, that is so, um, disappointing and like saddening in a sense now. And I feel that because I was there, and then there was this not moment but moments that grew, and to really open and expand my mind to say, hey, each of us has the power to design our own future. And the only reason we stopped doing that is because we just got into the rut and we got comfortable, and we said, oh well, these are the cards that I was given and I can't influence anything. And so being around kids definitely brings back that, because they're so just free spirited, right? And they have kind of no preconceived notions and experiences, and all of these things to influence them. They're just, it's a free spirit. And I think getting back to that and dreaming big, a lot of people could improve their personal situation just by doing that. You don't have to do a lot, just journal, do that exercise daily or weekly, and just start there. You'll be amazed in a year where you could go.
That's what I was going to ask you, Shane. 'Cause, it's been a while since we talked about like the inception of us starting our respective businesses. It's fun to think back to like what triggered, or what events or what thoughts really triggered you to sort of unlearn kind of what it means to be successful or happy or yeah, ambitious. I think these are all terms that, at a young age, you might be kind of fed what that means for you. Um, and at a certain point, hopefully, people unlearn that and determine what that means for themselves. And I think you and I both have had those moments in time, leading up to starting our own things, that kind of reframed our North Star. So yeah, I mean, you just mentioned like journaling. I think for me, it was a lot to do with my faith. And ironically, it was unlearning who this God was for me, because growing up, it was told to me and preached to me. Um, I mean, I was literally born into a church, right? My dad being a pastor, like I almost had no choice to believe in this. I literally, like, I really didn't actually. From ages like 0 to 5, like what active choices did I really make, including my religion? So in the acts of unlearning my faith and determining if this is the faith and the spiritual life that means something to me, that trickled down to a lot of other things that I wanted to, as silly as it sounds, like that I wanted to make a decision for myself and not follow what either society or my parents, or just observing what my friends are doing, really um, what you know what that shaped me to do in the past. So yeah, do you think journaling for you was like a big trigger to beginning to unlearn that? You're on mute. Oh, Shane, I think you're on mute.
Got muted.
There
I
you
got
go.
muted. I don't know how. I think I hit my keyboard accidentally. But what to your question there, and going back to the origins, it's funny because there's I wouldn't say like any specific moment in time. Like I can remember a few moments that I'll describe, but there's the origin of forming Obnovit with Mary and I, and a lot of that coming out of my mind initially. But it's funny because that origin is really traced back again, like you were saying, to your childhood, and the origins of how your world and your inner programming were shaped, and how your personality and your person were shaped as a child. And I would say along the way, since coming from the origin point of Obnovit, there's been so much rework and personal development work to, like you said, unlearn and then kind of relearn that. Or for, I like to always say, like, find the bad code in the programming and then rewrite that code so that way it serves me better now with where we're at. And yeah, the getting to a point, there was this time where I was working Fortune 500 world and working 50 plus hours a week, crazy hours, national projects all around the world, in Asia even. So it was early mornings, late nights, all of that, having two young kids. I remember when Sadie, our oldest, was just born. It was a stressful time, and as a high achiever in kind of all areas, especially work was paramount for me. It was very hard to figure out how to like balance and juggle all of that while also knowing that I wanted more out of kind of life in general. And then kind of started with like this point of like, wow, we want to take this somewhere, our lives somewhere else, and go beyond what my original programming told me to get to. Like I had already reached the goal that I set when I was in high school, right, was get out of college, get a job, get to the point where I had a lifestyle that was similar to what I had. And that was great. And I got to this point where it's like, wow, I got there and I really wasn't all that happy with that. There was a lot to be grateful for sure. But, the stress and all of that, like it just wasn't fitting. Right. And around that same time, my manager at work passed away suddenly, and he was like, gosh, maybe late 40s, early 50s. So he had kids who were teenagers, and it was just so sudden, like a bicycle accident. One day was in work, at work, saw him, said goodbye that day. And then the next morning, we were in the meeting. He wasn't there. That's odd. And then, yeah, just gone that quick. So it really changed probably the timing, I would say, like the trajectory in a way, but it really accelerated the timing to say, seeing, because I could think back over the years working with him of like being at his kids' sports events and being on a Zoom call for work with us. And I'm like, man, God, just to go back and like reshape all that, I was like, I'm not going to do that. And that was the path I was heading down. And so it really kind of shook me and got me into this point of like, how do we get to the point of where we want to go? And that was like having time freedom, having financial freedom, and then ultimately being able to produce something that generates so much value that we could then give back to other people. And that's like the core purpose behind all of this. I would say those are like the three pillars. And when I started to look at that, it was like the equation doesn't work in Fortune 500 world that way. And so it was like, okay, how do we get there from where we're at? And that led us to be like, okay, we've got to start our own business. And there was kind of some steps in there, and there was some like half in, half out, working full time and building the business, and then transitioning to full time job, Novant, and all of that. But yeah, really, there was this like few-year period when we're right before, during, when we had our oldest daughter Sadie, where a lot of that transformed and changed. And I also picked up reading a bit more in the audiobook form. Interestingly enough, before that, I would have said that I'm not a reader. I'm an engineer. I love numbers. I love spreadsheets. I don't like reading. And I picked up audiobooks. I was like, didn't have a lot of time, but I would be out on like the lawnmower, and we just had Sadie. And so Mary's inside with the baby. I'm out in the summer on the lawnmower for, hour and a half, 2 hours every week. And I was like, let me just throw this on, throw an audiobook on and like try and make things better here. Like at that time, I was like doing more with less. And so I got into the audiobooks and read some, and then that mixed with some of the life events that occurred that really accelerated our movement towards this. And over a couple year period, a lot of journaling every single day. I've got a stack of journals that I actually just looked at yesterday. So it's funny that you bring that up. Yeah, I've got a stack of them now where pretty much every day it's part of my habit and routine now. And inside of that journal, a big part of it is vision, goals, dreams, as well as gratitude, things that action items I've got to do for the day and stuff like that. But the dreaming part is now a daily activity. And then also right before I go to bed, try and visualize the things that I want in the life that I want. And yeah, so it's definitely put me on a path that I would have never imagined, and the people that I've gotten to meet and work with, and it's crazy. Just one example of that is last month we did a training for inside of ChatGPT, building some GPTs custom GPTs for them to do some workflow mapping. And this is like $1 billion, very, very highly regarded software company out of the Northeast. And here I am, with everything that I've learned and done, training these folks and handing them over the back end of a tool that they're now using to optimize their business processes. $1 billion company, just blows my mind. And so cool. What a great experience. And getting feedback on all of that, and it's going really well for them. So it just, yeah, it just blows my mind. But it's all a testament to like no small goals, no small dreams, like dream big.
And I think the common theme there is that like you're a changed person throughout that entire journey, and this is really just the beginning, right? Like there's so much more, and like you just bring that same enthusiasm and like curiosity every day, and a lot of effort for sure. Not every day is great. There's definitely some tough days, but man, like the growth that you can experience by setting these types of goals, and um, really recognizing like what it is that you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, like really taking stock of all of that is like so important, whether you are corporate or not. Yeah, because I find that too, and the amount that like you read, you write, you think, you meditate, like I think right now on social media, like you see that maybe too much, and it's almost desensitizing it, but it's so important. And I don't, I kind of hate myself for adding to that dialogue because I just kind of trashed at how much of it is just everywhere and rampant on social media. So I'll just speak for myself. Yeah, I don't think I would be here today since the inception of my business if I didn't commit every day, like 30 minutes every day, every single morning to meditating, reading scripture, doing what I need to do. Um, and if you have this very like narrow view or this very binary view of like you do something to get an output of it, you're never really gonna try anything. Like, you're gonna be afraid. You're gonna be disappointed for sure. Um, so yeah, I'd encourage anyone listening that be really open-hearted and open-minded and try things, whether that is leveling up through audiobooks, whether it's writing down your goals, whether it's talking to your significant other or your spouse about how your day went, or what your goals are for the upcoming month. Like just try these new things and be consistent about it. Like just show up and be consistent about it, because there are benefits that you really can't expect. There's some things I just can't expect. And this is one example. Like literally before we hopped on our session today, I was just grabbing a snack, talking to my wife, and I just came out of like one of the crazier Fridays where I had like I think 6 back-to-back meetings, and for a Friday that's like very odd for me. I hate Friday meetings. It rarely makes sense in my line of business. For some reason, I had a ton of meetings, and so I just wanted to catch a breath before recording with you. And I had absolutely no thoughts, making a cup of coffee, just having a snack with my wife, and all of a sudden, I'm talking about the 30 minutes that I've been spending every single day for the last 3 years reading the Bible. And like she was asking me questions like, are you a changed man? Like, what did you learn? Like, and just as an FYI, like I'm literally on the last chapter of the Bible. Like this is my first time reading the whole thing from cover to cover, not even audiobook, like, word for word. Like, I'm much more of an audiobook guy myself. So yeah, I'm going to shout this one off the rooftops. Like it's definitely a big accomplishment for me.
Big time.
Yeah. And so she's asking me all these questions. We got to thinking like there's some beauty to how like I'm just about wrapping up this massive book, and it's just the beginning of 2026, and it kind of wraps up like the first 3 years of starting this business, because I really was feeling like, oh, I think I just ended a big chapter of my business and I'm opening up a new one. I kind of felt that over the holiday break, looking at goal setting and all that. And then this like conversation just by chance that I was having with my wife like really reframed and energized and really put um some context and some real like benefits and outcomes to those 30 minutes that I've been spending every single day. Something that I did not and could not have expected or ever imagined 3 years ago, from almost to the date where I first opened that book to start reading 30 minutes every single day. So that's just a testament to that, you know, you don't know the outcomes and the benefits that you're always going to get from a new activity, whether it's personal or professional development. Um, but man, like you're definitely going to learn something. So yeah, whether it's you becoming a better, business owner, friend, family member, like whatever it is, yeah, I think Shane and I think we're living proof that we're curious enough to try things. We're curious enough to want to learn consistently, and we almost do it with little to no expectations. We just know that these are certain muscle memory things that um, has worked in the past, and yeah, that I think are very indispensable in being who we are and being responsible for what we are responsible for.
Yeah, I mean, that is so moving and powerful, and really just fitting serendipitously into this conversation of achieving that. And I think there's like my mind goes to about five different things to unpack from that, but I would say right out of the gate, the other big thing is if you were to tell somebody, hey, go read the Bible cover to cover, they might start and get most people get 20 pages into a book and then they stop and they might restart all of that. But the testament there is to how you broke that down into just small chunks and then also made it a habit. And that is really the commitment, is just a little piece every single day, just getting up on the scoreboard. And even if you don't, you're dedicating 30 minutes and sometimes that may get cut short. You may be traveling, whatever. But if you can just get one page, move that one page or 2 pages or 10 pages, whatever it is, and just get in the habit of doing that every day, then before you know it, like you said, you've read it cover to cover and probably internalized it a lot better than if you just sat down to read it, started it, probably wouldn't have finished it. And it just is that combination. And that ties back a lot to my journaling habit as well. And it's similar because I spend the first 30 minutes of every day in a very secluded area, and Mary will laugh about that. Um, yeah, we'll talk about that another time. But 30 minutes at least every day, and I do it I start with journaling and kind of like what's coming through. And the other piece to all of that is if you do that first thing in the morning, especially kind of a little bit earlier, there is I haven't fully dove into this, but definitely have heard it out there where the early morning time period is a great time. It's like the best time to have energy and waves connecting with the universe, essentially, and kind of like the creator. And so that is a very powerful time to do certain things for just your energy, your frequency, your being. That morning is very, very important time, and like a peak time to be doing that. So
I
very,
agree.
very, very important. And yeah, I would say it just brings a lot of perspective. And that was really moving that you got all that finished, and it has fundamentally changed you. Which is so the other big thing about not only dreaming bigger, but also understanding. I struggled with this a lot because, again, very linear thinking, very sequential thinking. The household that I grew up in, the people that I was surrounded with, it was all very similar, right? Everybody has their job Monday through Friday. They're 9 to 5. Go to school, go to college, and then kind of end up in that same similar cycle. And a lot of the folks are not a lot of growth and development from folks that were close to me, and understanding that you can change. And I think that might be slightly generational, as especially with social media and the internet, we have access to a lot more people who have gone through that journey of starting at the very bottom and going to certain things. Like for me, stories around like David Goggins and Cameron Haynes and Dan Martell, and there's all these people who Alex Hormozy. Like there's so many people out there who have just incredible stories of literally um, basically on the edge of just killing themselves, for lack of a better term, like the ragged edge of just living life and the meaning of life, to now being such an influence. And to be able to see that growth and change, it just gives you, at least it gave me inspiration to be able to say, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to be stuck as the engineer who's going up the corporate ladder. And my only decision is, do I want to be management and leadership, or do I want to be a senior technical engineer? It's like, no, I can redefine my entire being and be even more successful. And so having that opportunity and then reprogramming your mind to allow yourself to change is important. And if you're, I would say, if anybody's out there going to try and transform themselves and really change their situation, you have to be willing to get to a point where you literally 6 or 12 or 18 months from now, you would be saying things and doing things that might contradict what you had said just 6 or 12 or 18 months ago, because you have learned and grown so much that you realize, oh wow, that part of me, what my preconceived notion about the world or my viewpoint on this is fundamentally changed, and that's what you're gonna have to get used to doing.
Man, eh, my where my mind was going when you were saying that, like it's not easy, and I don't think it's supposed to be easy. Generally speaking, maybe some people have a much easier time to make a transition like that. Um, and to be honest, like I didn't know we were going to get into this type of conversation today around like transitioning, right, from like corporate to self-employed. And but I'm all for it. I think it's very timely as we think about, a lot of people setting out for massive change to the start of the year. um but I want to say that like it's not easy, nor do I think it should be easy, because it doesn't get easier once you do make that transition. Like you almost need to be put through that fire in the beginning and like really make that tough decision. And the decision shouldn't be tough, but the act of transitioning can certainly be tough. There's new things you have to learn, there's things you have to let go of. um but I think there's a reason to that all, because once you do work for yourself, I think it's this constant um, cycle of what is your, it's kind of like doing a SWOT analysis for your business, like every single day. What is my strength? That's all good. What's my weakness? We got to work on that. And then what are those opportunities and threats that I need to spend extra time either, making it one of my strengths, or kind of diffusing. So like that act of being in that constant vicious cycle of like things that can be a strength, weakness, opportunity, or a threat, like I don't think that ever goes away unless you like get acquired or like you sell your business, or you like have an exit strategy. That'll always be there, and it's not easy to deal with that. Yes, you can build an amazing team, but then you're managing the people that deal with that. So there's always challenges and new problems to find creative solutions for. And you know the ones that I think make that transition from corporate to self-employed are kind of equipping themselves with really essential like soft skills like persistence and resilience and discipline, um, versus maybe someone that's just like thrown into a position where they like are handed a business, right? Like, hey, now it's time for you to do it. Like, of course that's not easy either, but I think there's something very unique about people like you, people like me, who make this kind of arduous transition from a very structured, um, kind of predetermined kind of working career, um, that's completely just flipped upside down once you go kind of the opposite route.
Yeah. Oh man, 100%. And the way I kind of view it is, you're in a lot of ways, when you're in a W-2 role, you're exchanging growth, like a certain amount of growth potential. Basically, you're exchanging unlimited growth potential for security. And that's just kind of the way the world has progressed to form since, the industrial revolution and modernization. Whereas before, way back, if you look back at things, your career was basically whatever your family did. So if they were blacksmiths, then you got the name usually with Smith in it, and that's what you did, and you learned it and came up that way. But at the same time, those folks who were doing that, while they kind of had a predetermined a little bit path and career, they were doing it on their own terms, right? And it's a little bit more towards that hunter gatherer perspective of like, yes, I have a skill set that I learned from my family, but I have to go out and sell and market, even back then, sell and market and have relationships. And that's really what it comes down to, is when you get out of that corporate environment and the security of that, you go back a little bit to having to be that hunter gatherer, the intrinsic motivation, and being able to, like you said, the soft skills. It's like that, the marketing piece, the networking, trying to exert influence and show people the value of what you can do. And all those things are things that you don't necessarily have to think about as deeply when you're inside of the corporate or W-2 environment, for sure. And it definitely, I would agree, it's not easy, and there are hard days and there are amazing days, and some days it's you're in a blender of all of that and more mixed together. But it is very, for those that are inclined that way, it is so rewarding and exciting, and it is something that you don't have to necessarily ever retire from, in the sense of it's like an infinite game. And Simon Sinek talks about that as well. And like, life is kind of the infinite game. And really the whole point is just to keep playing the game, not necessarily to get to, there is no final stop like in Candyland or in Monopoly where the game ends. It's really the infinite game to keep playing. And I think part of playing, I would say, is really just growing as a human and being able to help more people and generate value. And ultimately, if you're going to go out and do it on your own, like you kind of have to be driven in that sense. Because if you're not, it's going to be even harder. So yeah, definitely would recommend wanting to grow and having a commitment to growing a lot faster than you ever have before when you step out. And that's just going to be par for the course.
Yeah, man, that's such a good nugget to take away. And these are the conversations that I love having. Even like this morning, I met with someone that um, wanted to speak with someone that has gone the consulting, the freelancing route in the SEO world, and it's just so refreshing that like there's still so many people that are considering going down this route. So I hope those people feel empowered. Not sure if they're listening to this or other podcasts or reading or talking to other people, but um, yeah, there's so much information out there to help accelerate, learn from other people's mistakes. Certainly, we're very honest about some of the mistakes that we've made, or at least the learnings that we've picked up along the way. But yeah, I love these conversations, and we really hope that you guys get some value out of it. And it's kind of fun, just kind of reliving 3 years ago, like where we were, and yeah, how far we've come, man. Kudos to you. Sounds like you guys nailed down that project, um, yeah, that company in the Northeast. I know we were talking about that about like a month or two ago. You kind of
Yeah.
snuck that one in there, but man, congrats on that. That's huge.
Thanks. Yeah, we did. We did get that one, and hopefully that's a door opened up, and we've got some real momentum heading into the beginning of this year. And
Nice.
it's been so, on our side, as far as AI education and enablement for primarily engineering firms and companies, as well as other businesses in general, because what at the end of the day, it's all pretty universal. It's just, if I'm talking to a different company that's not a true, like a pure engineering firm or engineering company or related adjacent, I can kind of just change. It's like changing the lens or the language around a little bit and using slightly different examples. But like, foundational skills are foundational skills, especially for AI usage and integration. And the even bigger discovery over the last 3 to 6 months has been that most businesses are messy and they're always kind of broken. That's going to be a true fact. and is hard for me to deal with as an engineer, um, even in my own business, right? But it is there's so much opportunity to help folks where AI right now I'm seeing AI as a initiating event because of the vast amount of media coverage and popularity that it has, and people feel like a little bit of FOMO and like we have to start integrating this. But to be honest with you, what I see is when we start talking about it, it's like we can get the foundational skills and like get you set up in whatever Microsoft Copilot or Chat GPT or whatever it is, right? And like I can get you really cooking with that. But then when we go to like this next deeper layer, the first stop is always like we have to look at your business and the way that the work gets done, the workflows and the data flows. And that is just so fundamental, and it's becoming a lot more apparent and important than it ever was before. Before maybe you got a new software or you did a migration and you might do a revamp and you maybe had SOPs, maybe you didn't, right? But now moving into this age of AI, it's like if you don't have that stuff created yet, like we got to do that ASAP. And we can't really go too much further because you're trying to add a bunch of really, really high horsepower technology to something that is just kind of a garbage foundation. And so you're not really building a sustainable scaffolding or structure. And so we end up just kind of starting there anyways. And most folks that we're working with, it's kind of the same thing over rinse and repeat and extracting it. And I think the other piece now that it's a lot more digestible, that, like if you never had SOPs or you don't know your data flows or you want to create some dashboards and stuff, what used to take months and months and months and an actual dedicated developer, programmer, all of that stuff is now done in a matter of days, or at most a couple of weeks. And we've got a lot of processes, flows, data flows all figured out, mapped, ready to rock and roll. So the speed at which you can now kind of get back caught up and then go forward from there is pretty exciting. So we're seeing a lot of that opportunity in traffic, and also starting to get some momentum around our spring training cohort where we're going to go from whatever level folks are at. And again, there's going to be folks maybe listening who don't use AI at all, don't use LLMs like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or any of these. And then there might be some people who are using it and they kind of have had talks with these folks who think they're kind of power users, and that's fine. But I would say that if you don't have a systematic approach and a way that you could teach somebody else to use it, then you're probably not using it at a high enough level. And if you're not repeatedly getting the outputs, outcomes, everything that you want, and also seeing how you can integrate it into your business or your personal workflows with everything that you do, and you don't have those systems and approaches and frameworks set up, then you're going to need that kind of foundational structural training to get off the ground and really be able to build and expand and grow beyond that. Without it, you're just not building that strong foundation to be able to understand the inner workings and the behind the scenes, which I know you've done a lot of research and your own work on. And then it's seeing these systems and ideas of how to apply it to different areas within the business and workflows. And then it will just grow from there. But if you don't get that initial foundation laid, it can be challenging for sure.
Yeah, dude, it's so interesting. I'm just realizing that, um, with your accelerator program and how you kind of walked us through that, you can train people on the foundational skills, but at a certain point, there's a decision to be made about, all right, is it agentic workflows or just more advanced level workflows that we can implement, or do we need to fix the data that you guys have and how everything's kind of talking to one another? Like, I feel like you can also fill that gap and service them in that capacity. Like outside of just the accelerator program, like if they need some help, like improving their processes outside of just AI solutions, you being part of those systems and processes for over a decade plus, like, do you see that, as you're now, going out to more and more clients or prospective clients, that you're almost selling these like modular services of like, yeah, we can train you from ground up, but also we can improve your systems and processes so that the things that we teach in our accelerator program are actually applicable um, to a more kind of structurally sound data foundation that we can also help kind of create. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm kind of picturing you almost providing like a full suite of services here that can kind of do it all. Of course, for engineering firms specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the way visually for those listening that I would describe this is, think of it as a structure, kind of like the Parthenon, where you've got these big columns, and then you below that there's a really strong foundation. And the way I always describe it in presentations and to prospective clients, and even in our courses, is you have a really broad range of employees at that foundational layer that make up your business, and they can all be equipped with foundational AI skills through a $20 to $30 a month subscription to something like a Copilot add-on or a Chat GPT, whatever flavor you want. They're all fundamentally very similar. If you enable all of them, you're automatically going to get like a anywhere between 25 and 40% productivity gain, just because of a variety of factors. But it just speeds up the work that they can do and increases quality, employee satisfaction, all these things. We could talk about that on a separate podcast. But you have that foundational layer that's kind of broad and it's strong, but it's not super deep, right? And then there are these, after you get past that kind of first foundational building, the pillars in the business are really the workflows where you produce your outputs and data gets transferred and communication, all these things. And that's where the complexity really lies, is not on an individual user's day to day necessarily, but it's the complex workflows in the business. And I think of those as kind of the pillars, because in those cases, we can start to use a little bit of just the general chat based LLMs. But in a lot of cases, you start building into those systems like a chat GPT, a GPT itself, or a project folder, whatever the case is. But pretty soon the workflow gets so complex that you run out of capacity and horsepower, and how do you organize it all? And that's where we ultimately end up with, our fundamental belief is that, and you're right, is we're productizing this now, of like, we've seen it so many times over and over, that we're helping folks after they get foundationally trained to now dive deeper. And the first step really is it's data and workflow mapping. So that way we understand what the process is, where it's going, and then what tools and data do you need to make it happen. And there's a few like limited use cases where you could actually use a true autonomous AI agent to do things. But I would say 99.9% of the businesses out there, their workflows are not defined clearly enough. Their data is not clean enough. And the tool set that they need is not clearly defined enough to actually go in and just build an agent that goes end to end, start to finish, and does it all for you. You would either have to start a new work process, workflow from scratch, and just build it so that way it's agentic out of the box, and abandon your old way. But the problem with that is all of your historical data and all the really meaningful, important stuff gets kind of tossed out. And so it is critically important to map out what you've got. And for my clients and stuff, it's no different than what they in the engineering world, what we do. And you probably have a similar analogy here in your world. But for us, when you're doing an engineering project and it's an existing facility or something that's out there that you're going to rework, manipulate, expand, whatever, the first step is always getting the foundational data mapped and understanding what you have, shake it all out, map it. In the engineering world, we have the 3D scan of what is there, right? So that way you can build and expand on top of it. Because if you don't do that, you could build the greatest project, but if it doesn't flange up and interface with what's already there or modify what's already there, then it's just not going to work. You're in for a rude awakening, and then it just the project is going to go sideways, and tons of field rework and all of that. So it's no different than taking that same thought process, turning it back on your business, and really, instead of just going right into agent this, agent that, coming back to the foundational skills and really building it up. because it's important, and it's also going to be even more important as we go on over time. Like you said, if you want to even get close to starting to build a true autonomous single agent or multi agent orchestration out there over time, you have to be very clear on like what is every person in your business's job role, and you have to have it written down. You have to have all the workflows that they do step by step for the most part. Because if you don't have all that, you're gonna just turn on an agent. You're gonna get a bunch of garbage. Quick note on that is trying to explain this to other people and companies the one that's really visually appealing and resonates because it's kind of mainstream is back in 2016. So like 10 years ago, plus or minus, Elon Musk was going to build the first Tesla 3 plant, and it was going to be fully autonomous. All robots, no humans. It was going to be like, this like cyborg futuristic plant. So it was like it was thousands, like I forget, it was over 1,000 or over multi-thousand robots purchased, installed, got all the stuff to build the Model 3 in the factory. They hit go on it, right? They're running into all kinds of bugs, losing, I think it was $100 million per week on the facility. They're not even getting close to the target capacity on paper. And at that point, it's really interesting because there's a tweet he tweeted out there that we made a mistake and we underestimated the importance of humans. And he said, like, actually, to clarify that, I made a mistake. And the whole notion of this was that there's so much complexity around what we do as humans that to try and replace that with completely autonomous robots in this case, and even back then, there was still, I'm sure, AI elements integrated, it wasn't going to happen. And so then what they did is they ripped out the robots, they put in the humans back into the key critical areas, and then they got it moving. But what Elon said is he then, after that moment of like sleeping on the Tesla factory floors and everything, came up with his, I forget what he calls them, but it's basically Elon's rules, right? Maybe it'll come back to me of the word he uses for it, but his rules. And actually automation, which would be the equivalent of like agentic AI and even like business process automation, that's actually last on his list. And so you have to get your house in order before you can actually do anything else. Otherwise you are, and he had the benefit of starting from scratch, like a clean sheet of paper trying to do that. So you could imagine if you have a complex business, you have lots of data all over the place, different storage locations, all that. And then you try and just like put a bunch of robots on it, it's going to just produce a bunch of garbage, and it's not going to be useful, and you're going to waste a lot of money. So all that being wrapped up, yes, we're education. And then the second piece is enablement. And we're now doing that for our clients where we are a resource, a guide, advisor, and then actually helping them do the work and the processing because they don't have the in-house horsepower to do it. And we hold them accountable to it. And when they do that, it's going to be interesting because it'll be kind of under the AI umbrella, but really a lot of this stuff could have come without AI. It's just the fact that we can do it so fast with AI now for the mapping and baselining piece, and then layer on automations and AI. It's really powerful, and we're going to see some huge transformations. Like one business we worked with last year, we put together a plan through workflow mapping to identify the constraint in their business and in the specific workflow, and that unlock gave a pathway to double revenue for, this is already a like larger multi-seven figure small business, and they're going to be able to double their revenue without adding headcount is where we came out with that one. Now there's I'm not saying that's overnight, and I'm not saying that's without any investment. Like there's investment there for automation. First they got to they got to get the data, they got to build the automations, we got to layer in some AI, but there's a pathway to do that. And so like that's the real gold that's going to be coming out this year especially.
Yeah, I love that you guys are in some capacity this accountability partner to make sure the data is clean. Because man, I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are blindly trusting things right now. Especially in my industry, there's a lot of MCPs that are getting released that hook up directly to an SEO software. In theory, sounds beautiful, right? You can now ask it to do a lot of analysis. You can extract some insights, maybe even some strategic insights to like action upon. Like it sounds really great. Um, I'm just starting to play with it, and it hallucinates. It's crazy. Like it, these are huge software companies that are releasing, um, their MCP apps in ChatGPT or in Claude, and it's making it so accessible to people. And I just hope that they're being that human loop. And that story that you gave around Elon. Um, I just hope that they're really looking at the data that they're pulling through this MCP. And yeah, it just goes back to really just almost having a look at all of this stuff with a grain of salt all the time. Checking all the data. My goodness, I mean, yeah, it's really powerful technology, but as much as it could do some good things, it could really do some things really badly. And I've seen some really bad instances of um, some of the outputs that I've gotten. So yeah, just a little fair bit of warning out there. But yeah, it's getting there, man. I don't think I was just having this conversation earlier today as well. Like, going back to the whole threat, the SWOT analysis of your business, how like it always hits you every single day. AI has definitely made me not reconsider, but think about the longevity of an SEO agency. Um, what can be replaced and what can't. And yeah, I guess like the latest bit around some of these MCPs and some of the workflows that I'm seeing, I don't think there's a risk this year to SEO practitioners and SEO agencies out there. But man, if like they get the data foundation right, super, super clean, and they're able to somehow layer in real like customer data and emotions, and there's still a long ways to go. Um, yeah, I might really have to think about what the life of an SEO agency looks like, with really powerful technologies down the line. I think it's smart to think about things like that, as long as it spurs the right actions afterwards. Um, but yeah, as you were talking through just the possibilities once you have clean data and clean processes, um, I think not only should businesses think about adopting that to maybe think through what the next version of your business and your services look like, but honestly, I think it's a fair thing to reassess. Like, yeah, is your business at risk because of these advancements? Um, yeah, I have those thoughts so often. It's kind of crazy how often I have those thoughts right now.
Yeah, and I think there are certainly studies out there around like the areas that are going to be most affected first and then where it may end up getting to. But I think in every business, the thing as a leader in the business, your primary role is really to be looking up and out to avoid that, right? Like kind of steering the ship and avoiding hitting the iceberg and going down. And so as you look up and out, there's a lot of opportunity. And I would say the reframe for those that are out there thinking about this is I always go back to like what will fundamentally be true and as a human need going forward. And then how does your business tie into that fundamental human need, even if it's you're typically working B2B, right? And think a little bit deeper and a little bit more existential about what you actually sell to your clients and your prospective customers. The reason why this is coming up and is fresh in my mind is I'm reading a really great book around on the marketing side is called Story Brand by Donald Miller, or
Mm.
Building a Story Brand. And fantastic book that just boils it down to how to communicate. And it's really through a story. Like if I think back to a lot of the books that I've read, the parts that I remember the most are the stories that were told in that book to solidify whatever it was that the book was talking about, not all the data, the frameworks, all this. It was the stories. And when you start thinking about things like that, the first step is that your prospective customers and your current clients are really the heroes in that story, and then they're going to face some adversity, and that is always going to be fundamentally true. And it's really thinking about like, what adversity are they always going to face? Even if AI were to be able to do a lot of this stuff, there's still, when you boil it down, there's still tangible connection and human centric pieces that you do, where you might have to shift the way you market your business or your actual offering a little bit. But that then becomes a new opportunity to grow and expand the business. And as an example, like for your business, I'm just hypothetically talking here. It's like, you currently it's SEO, and then it's probably going to become more GEO, right? Like AI search surfacing and optimization. But over time, you could, in theory, use your expertise that only you and select others have and turn that into an AI powered platform for small businesses who aren't going to be able to hire an in-house team. And you might service hundreds or thousands of clients because you have so much horsepower with AI internally. But those folks and their businesses are still going to need that expertise that only you can encapsulate in your style of business. And so I think for a lot of businesses, it's not that necessarily doom and gloom, but it's a way to rethink and reframe and go back to, what are the things that right now are critical, and what do we actually do? What do we provide for our customers? And chances are it's not that bar soap or deodorant or the search engine, the results that you deliver in ranking their pages. There's probably some other more fundamental existential things that you're providing them that they're always going to want and need. And maybe you're just able to service a lot more of those clients in the future.
Oh, 100%. And to clarify, I think the existential crisis to SEO businesses out there, I think it's the executional work that really is replaceable.
Hmm.
It's the strategy that I know that can't be replaced. I'm trying, like, in fact, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to replace strategy somehow, right? Like, if I can solve for that, I mean, I think that would be like $1 trillion idea. But even with like these MCPs and my limited knowledge and usage of AI compared to some of the kind of super power users out there, I haven't found ways to completely replace it. But you're damn sure I'm going to keep trying, because it's a way of, like, I think finding, like you said, that next version of services if it ever gets to that point. But also just a way for me to determine whether or not this really is a threat to the longevity of my business. But yeah, it's got its good days and its bad days for sure. It can certainly make you less motivated in a way, like you almost want to give up sometimes. Um, but alongside that, there's days where it definitely fires you up. And yeah, I think for me, just I've been in this frame of mind for the better part of last year heading into this year. And um, I think every day is more learning about the technologies and more case studies to formulate my own point of view on what this thing is in terms of optimizing for these new AI surfaces. It's changing so incredibly fast. So my point of views are even changing incredibly fast. Um, but it kind of goes back to the overall theme of today's episode. I think that, like, there's no constant when you start doing something for yourself, and when you when you own your own business, it's having that resilience no matter how you feel, just to get up again. Also, don't get too high or too low. Just kind of keep showing up, and yeah, and rely on kind of the support around you and the other books and the people that have already been through it to make the wisest decisions that you guys can make at this current time.
Yeah, I agree with you. Full circle, and kind of great timing here to bring this all full circle of like having these existential thoughts and maybe threats even, and then but always going back to that bigger vision, right? And that connection with whatever that is for you, source energy, the creator, God, whatever it is, right? Like if you have this higher power and this higher vision for your life, then it is going to, and you commit to that, and you dream really really big, and you have good intentions, and you want to ultimately just fundamentally help other people, then as things go on and play out, like the pathway and the bridge to where you're going will become more apparent as you get there. But it's, you're not going to solve it all just sitting there and down right now and trying to figure it out. You got to just start, and the journey is going to be very circumtuitous, and it's going to have ups and downs and all kinds of stuff. But I think if you have those core habits of revisiting, staying, focusing on kind of that North Star, that even more like existential reasoning and being and meaning, that the pathway and these threats and how to navigate this will just come to you in like the most spiritual way and meaning and way. And so, yeah, I think that's a great way to come full circle on this. Is like, yep, threats, but don't lose sight of that North Star, and don't be afraid to change and make pivots, and just go and take action.
Absolutely, man. Look, the last like 15 minutes of this felt like therapy to me, like business therapy. So I appreciate you. And hopefully, those listening, hopefully it was entertaining or at least, um, educational. And, even if it was just one or two things that you guys can take away. We do it for you guys, we do it for ourselves as well. This is part of the week that we look forward to kind of just unpack and unwind a little bit. So we hope that yeah, you like this episode just to kick off the year. We've got a lot more things cooking up, and yeah. Any final words, Shane? I thought today was just perfect to what we're all about, just unscripted and yeah, therapeutic for me at least too.
No, I agree 100%. Kind of a big topic in a lot of ways, pretty heavy and exciting, and a great way to peel back a new page for this exciting new year to come. I think, yeah, heading out, we're going to probably maybe start focusing in on some more technical deep dives like we did last year, and even some more frameworks that maybe alternating between more technical things of what we do, AI, SEO, and then also some mindset frameworks and business related entrepreneurship style stuff. So excited for the next episode when we get to recording that, and an exciting year of episodes to come. And if folks want to get a hold of you, again, let's remind them what the best way.
Yeah, Sam Lee on LinkedIn. That's where you'll find me most active.
And Key Rise Consulting, right? If in case they
Yes.
can't narrow it down.
Yes.
Fantastic. And for me, Instagram, great way to get in touch with me. Also LinkedIn. Both of those are at Shane Chalupa, ShaneChalupa. And yeah, feel free to reach out, connect, give us a like, subscribe. And we're going to be putting out more, like I said, exciting content this year in 2026, really shaping it up for all of you, and keeping it authentic as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Shane, thank you as always, and we'll catch you guys soon.